Dr. Shabir, we have a question here about the Sabbath. So someone is asking, Christians and Jews have the Sabbath. Was the Sabbath abrogated for Muslims?
Well, there's a hadith that says that God prescribed the day to be observed, and the original day was Friday, and that the Jews chose it to be Saturday, and Christians made it Sunday. And God has restored the original day for Muslims, which Muslims observe to be the Friday. So says a hadith that is attributed to our Prophet Muhammad, on whom be peace. Now, looking at this more broadly, we see that in the Bible, the Sabbath is depicted as the day that God rested after he created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. And it looks like the 6 days are like similar to the 6 days of our weeks. Mm-hmm. And so the Sabbath is then given in this way, as if it's a Saturday. But whether this Saturday was always called, like this was the particular day, to trace this back to all of history from the time of creation would be very difficult, because there have been changes and reformations in thinking throughout history. The Bible itself shows that King Josiah enacted a reform. So whether the day itself has been changed at a particular time, there's no record that it was changed, but it's not inconceivable that it was. Now, Christians have started to worship on the Sunday, whereas in the New Testament it is clear that the original disciples of Jesus continued to observe the day of the Sabbath. In fact, they prayed together with fellow Jews, because they themselves were Jews, the earliest followers of Jesus, and they prayed together in the synagogues, and naturally they observed the Jewish holidays and festivities as well. Jesus himself is said to have observed the Passover, which is a sort of Sabbath. And on the whole, it seems that he maintained following and observing the Sabbath, even with some modification. His point was that he could heal people on the Sabbath, but he was still adhering basically to the Sabbath. He never said, as far as we can tell, that the Sabbath is no longer valid. He just, continued. He healed people on the Sabbath, which some found objectionable. They thought, okay, if you want to heal people, why do it on the Sabbath? You can wait for another day. But his point was that God is always working and always doing good things. So why couldn't we do something good on the Sabbath? So the change to Sunday is a little puzzling from that perspective. But now for Muslims, it is clear in the Quran, إِذَا نُودِيَ لِلصَّلَاةِ مِنْ يَوْمِ الْجُمْعَةِ فَاسْعَوْا إِلَىٰ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ. When the call is made for prayer on the Friday, then you are to leave off trade and hasten to the remembrance of God. Mm-hmm. So Muslims have a clear directive to observe the Friday, and the hadith follows that up by saying that this actually was the original day that God had prescribed to be observed in this way.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't a day of rest, right? It was a day of, you could do other things, but then you had that little period in which you had to pray.
Yes, and that's an interesting aspect of the Muslim observance. You notice that the verse in which the verse I've just cited actually says that when the call is made for prayer on Friday, you leave off your trading and hasten to the remembrance of God, which seems to indicate that it's almost expected that you'll be working that morning. Mm-hmm. And then you just leave off whatever work you were doing, your business and all of that, and you hasten to the remembrance of God. And then the passage actually continues to say, فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ. So when the prayer is over, then you are to spread out in the world and seek the bounties of God. Mm-hmm. And this is understood widely to mean that you can go back to your businesses or trading. This is the bounty of God, or one aspect of the bounty of God that you're allowed to seek. Not only allowed to seek, you're actually directed to go out and seek.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that answer, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.